Right, so after a few days away, keeping an eye on things around the world, right, and locally, obviously, one of the major stories around is the amount of money that Elon Musk has found in the USA, the USAID, that has been spent on, depending on your taste, right, nonsense, right. So we're going to have a little look at that, and we will then have a look at the Irish equivalent, right, Irish aid, and then we will have a little look at the media and how these things are all kind of tied in together, right. So what's going on in America is absolutely pivotal to what's going on, what's happening in Ireland now, and what will happen, right. Particularly when Ireland sends politicians over to America for Patrick's Day to meet their American counterparts, right. And hopefully the way that goes is the way it has been going. When Donald Trump is has a foreign dignitary or a foreign head of state over, what he's been doing is having a conversation with them behind closed doors, and then coming out to the media, essentially divulging, at least on paper anyway, what he says they were after speaking about and what deals have been made behind closed doors, right? And he's bringing that out to the public, and then he's opening up not just himself to media questions, but the other person, right? So if he brings a Micheál Martin over there, Micheál Martin is going to be brought out in public, and he's going to be asked questions by international media, right? Media who have no ties to him, they have no allegiance to him. They're not looking for him to get any membership in the Shannon, right, or any sort of nomination in politics or any role in government, right? So they might not be as friendly to him as he's used to on Irish soil, right? And he could be made a laughing stock, subtly made a laughing stock internationally, right? So we'll have a little look at this, and this is from foreignaffairs.house.gov, right? So the Foreign Affairs Committee, and it is talking about the USAID, right? So you just call it a USAID, right? But it's international development nonsense, right? So money that they take from you, American taxpayers, take it from you, right? It's not a they didn't make a deal with you, or there's no agreement there, but they take it from you, and then this is the money they send out abroad, right? And these are the programs or whatever sort of projects are being the money's been funneled through, right? So several egregious examples include $15 million for condoms to the Taliban, taxpayers' money, right? 400, nearly 450,000 to promote the expansion of atheism in Nepal through the State Department. 1 million to boost French-speaking LGBTQ groups in West and Central Africa through the State Department. 14 million in cash vouchers for migrants in the southern border through the State Department. 20,600 for a drag show in Ecuador. 47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. 32,000 for an LGBTQ centered comic book in Peru. 55,000 for a climate change presentation warning about the impact of climate change in Argentina, to be led by female and LGBT journalists through the State Department. 3.3 million for being, quote, being LGBTQ in the Caribbean, right? 7 million for BIPOC, I think it's a bisexual person of colour speaker, something like that, series in Canada. 80,000 for an LGBTQ community near in Bratislava, Slovakia. 3.2 million to help Tunisian migrants readjust to life in Tunisia after deportation. 16,500 to foster a united and equal queer feminist discourse in Albanian society. 10 grand to pressure Lithuanian corporations to promote DEI values. 8,000 to promote DEI among LGBTQ groups in Cyprus. $1.5 million to promote job opportunities for LGBTQ individuals in Serbia. 70,000 to create a US Irish musical to promote DEI in Ireland. 40,000 nearly to host seminars at the Edinburgh International Book Festival on gender identity and racial equality. 2.5 million to build electric vehicle charging stations in Vietnam's largest cities, and 425,000 to help Indonesian coffee companies before 420 grand to help Indonesian coffee companies become more climate and gender friendly, right? So these are just some of them, and that's just in one of these quasi government departments, right? Um, and not only that, then what's also been found is what we got here now. This is from Euronews, right? So White House cancels millions in Politico subscriptions. Politico is like a media outlet, right? And they've just been continuously, predictably, heavily on the one side of the political aisle, right? They're not. There's no nuance there, right? If you've read any of their stuff, you can predict what their conclusions are going to be about any given topic. So, what has happened? The White House has said it is cancelling millions of dollars in subscriptions to online news outlet Politico, part of sweeping program of cuts that has seen tech entrepreneur Elon Musk given the opportunity to gut government payrolls and budgets. The announcement came from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who's very impressive, who told a press conference on Wednesday that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, had spent $8 million on subscriptions to the outlet's Politico Pro output. Right, so you have a government body spending 8 million of taxpayers' money on buying subscriptions to an online media outlet. Right, subscriptions are favors, right? You judge for yourself, but that's just one of them. Here, Columbia Journalism Review, right? So, headline: USAID and the media in a time of monsters, right? What the aid funding freeze means for independent journalism around the world, right? So, it says, quote, the aid freeze appears to have put a hold on $268 million that was earmarked to fund independent media and the free flow of information this year. In the recent past, USAID had boasted of supporting more than 6,000 journalists, around 700 independent newsrooms, and nearly 300 media-focused civil society groups in 30 or so countries. And yet, RSF notes, the full impact of the freeze is hard to measure, since many recipients are hesitant to draw attention for fear of risking long-term funding or coming under political attacks. I bet they are. Right, so nearly over $250 million. Like, this is big money, big money, being spent on supporting more than 6,000 journalists, 700 independent newsrooms, and nearly 300 media-focused civil society groups in 30 or so countries. Right, so America, taxpayers' money has been taken from you and pumped into over 30 countries to support, how many? 6,000 journalists who will remain impartial even though they're being supported, right? They will speak the truth to the boss, the person paying their bills. Of course not, right? So they're buying up, we know what's going on here, right? They're buying up their own worldview shifts. People that can construct and sustain the narrative, right? So Ireland has its own foreign aid thing, right? And this is just off Grok, right? Because Grok is great for breaking down loads of different articles and aggregating them, essentially. And just the question I just asked is, how much has Ireland sent via the ODA and foreign aid since they began, right? So the ODA, the Official Development Assistant Programme, and Ireland signed up for this in 1974, right? So being a member state of the EU, you essentially have to give away a certain amount of your budget for foreign aid, right? Just give it away. So I asked, how much have we spent overall? And we can roll down through it, right? So Grok looks at the different years and aggregates the total, right? So the conclusion then, grand total, this rough calculation would suggest Ireland has contributed approximately 22.5 billion since 1974 of your money. Your parents' money, your grandparents' money. 22.5 billion taken and thrown into the wind. You see no benefit for that. If anything, you see a hindrance to your life from that. Because we've spent billions and billions and billions, and mind the troker collections and all this stuff, right? We've spent billions in promoting the longevity of people in Africa and apparently the sustainability and their ability to maintain life over there. And what do we get? After 20, 30 years of that, these people get brought over here. So we have to pay for them twice, essentially. Right? So that's what's going on here. 22 billion. What a difference that would have made if it remained in-house. So let's have a look at Irish Aid and see what they get up there. Right, and I just looked, go onto their website, Irish Aid, and I just looked at their business with the NGOs, right? Because we know the NGOs hoover up billions in your money every year. So what else did the Irish Aid do? So Ireland provides 16.5 million to NGOs improving lives overseas. The civil society funding will go towards tackling poverty and reducing the effects of climate change overseas. So, and like this is madness, right? So here you have all these things, right? These organizations, these NGOs, these charities who claim they're doing great things, right? So here's another one. We're going to go through a good few of these, right? So you can just see what your money is being spent on, while people are freezing in the west of Cork, right? Or the west of Cork, the west of Cork and the west of Ireland, right? They're still going without electricity, right? They have no ability to heat themselves because, depending on how old their house is, either one, they're not able to get the proper fuel for an open fire or a stove, or if it's a new build, well, you just don't get a chimney, so you're not allowed, right? And if your house is run totally electric, well, tough luck. You know, tough luck. We don't have the money to get around to that, right? So here's another one. In April 2024, Ireland pledges 12.3 million to support people in Sudan. Ireland has donated, how very charitable of us, right? Has donated 12 million to Sudan in response to the outbreak of conflict last year, which has left millions of people suffering from hunger. Tough. Tough. Right? And anybody claiming that this is a fantastic way of spending money that is needed here, you're not really being honest. If given the choice, do you want to give some of your wages weekly to Sudan? I would say very few people would openly agree to that, right? If there was a choice involved, but there's not a choice involved. Money is stolen from your account before you even get your hands on it, right? Here's another one. July 2024. Ireland to provide 15 million euros in funding to combat child hunger. And look at the name they give for this as well. It's child wasting, I think it's called. So the Taoiseach has announced funding of 15 million to combat child wasting, which is children going without food, right? In Kenya, Ethiopia and Somalia. How long have we been giving money to Somalia? It's a black hole. There's no filling it, right? And let's just assume that all the money we've given has actually gone there. What difference has it made? Apparently none. Right? It's just continuously swallowing money and allowing these people to grow up and come over here, and we have to fund them all over again, right? So your taxpayers' money goes towards these people's native countries, and also it's taken off you to build these IPAS centres around the country that are nicely furbished, right? I guarantee you they didn't go without electricity or heating. So you have to pay for these people twice. And 3 times even if you look at the rising cost of the ESB bills and stuff, right? So yeah, you have to pay for these people twice and then pay for yourself again at an extortionate rate, right? While you go without. So the 3-year funding initiative named Hanano, meaning nurture in Somali, is part of Ireland's 50 million commitment under the Global Action Plan on Child Wasting. Right? And mind the kids in this country that are struggling to find school placements. or are having our heads melted and morphed in schools. Never mind that. Not interested in that. And the Taoiseach, of course, little gleeful fairy face on him, he said he's particularly proud to have been able to launch the Hanano initiative today. Ireland knows all too well the horrors of hunger from its own history. Yeah, we do. But did we learn? No, not really. Getting there though. We're getting there. Slowly and surely, right? And look, I suppose the beautiful part of this is I believe we're moving in positive ways. Look, so each Irish person has their own challenges and their own struggles and their own ability to mount somewhat of a comeback against the nonsense that you're seeing. But ultimately, there's greater forces at play here, right? And you kind of have to be there to recognise when shifts are occurring, but also be there to recreate and reanimate when once big damage is done. And I think we're in the process now of seeing this sort of stuff coming to the light, where just ridiculous spending on money and fraud essentially, right? Because how much of this money actually gets there? How are these politicians ending up being so rich, right, on the salaries that they're said to have been getting, right? And I do believe, I can't find it now, but there's just an absolute belter of a one, right? It is nonsense anyway. But so how much of this money gets back, right, and is not just being recycled back into the pockets of politicians and into the pockets of these people who are friends of these people, right, who just happen to own construction companies who sell modular homes, right, these sorts of things, right? First dibs. I can't find the other one now. I'll have a look, right? We look for GAA because that was the name of the thing. This is absolute nonsense, right? Yeah, but there was no money total on this one, but it was in Uganda. I'll have a look at Uganda, right? But what we're doing as well is we've an ambassador to Uganda, right? And here we go now. So listen, look at this stuff. So deaf school children in Uganda learn new sign language in order to play GAA. The newly introduced signs have been incorporated into the Ugandan Sign Language Dictionary. This is October last year, right? And there's no money amount on it, right? And I think a lot of the Hurleys and a lot of the stuff is donated by local GAA groups. So which have to be replaced, right? There's money involved in that. But there's also money involved in the where's his name now? Irish Ambassador to Uganda, Kevin Colgan, getting some Gaelic football practice in with deaf students from Walakugu West Primary School in Jinja, eastern Uganda. What are we doing? How much is this fella on? Probably 100 grand, right? Did he fly first class to over there? How long did he stay there? Did he pay for his own hotel, his own chauffeur? No. How much expenses is he rattling up there, right? While he observes people teaching sign language to deaf Ugandan kids so that they can play a GAA. What is going on? And this is all coming. This fella's wages are coming out of your pocket, right? So there we have Sudan again. Just nonsense, right? But coupling what we've seen with the America funding nearly $250 million, or the USAID pumping nearly $250 million into national and international media companies buying preferential treatment, right? We also have this in Ireland, and Ireland are even bolder than this, right? Irish politicians are bolder than they're not even pretending to hide it, right? So how much, this is from Grok again, how much money has the Irish government given to RTE over the last few years? In 2023, the government approved 56 million in interim funding. And now all of a sudden, we go from 56 million, with 16 million additionally allocated in supplementary estimates. And now from 24 to 27, we're all the way up to nearly 750 million. So USAID is giving 250 million to, was it 700 newsrooms, 6,000 journalists, or whatever it was around the world. Ireland, its own little nation, is giving nearly 750 million, 3 times that, to one media outlet in the country. One. And so here we have it from, if you don't like grok, the Irish Independent. This is from July of 2024. RTE will get a guaranteed €725 million from your pocket in a public funding over the next 3 years in a bailout in the wake of the Ryan Tubridy scandal. Right. So, and this is the Commission na Main, like, right. So the Media Commission of Ireland allocates 5.7 million to news outlets. So the Commission na Main has announced the allocation of nearly 6 million to news outlets, with over 100 new or enhanced journalist roles to be filled under new schemes in what it describes as a good day for journalism and a good day for democracy. Whose kind of democracy, right? Where you have just the lowering of the bar to the average, right? That kind of democracy, where if you can placate the average or the bulk of a people, you get to dictate towards everyone else, right? Mob rule, funded by you, of course, right? So this is what we're looking at, and I believe that this stuff is coming out. And what can you do? You can just sit back and observe it, right? And let heads roll if they may roll, right? So, but ultimately, look, this could be a whole. There will always be sacrifices whenever there's a shifting or a changing of the guards, right? So you look at communist Russia or nearly any other kind of communist regime, right? Or tyrannical regime. It is always going to be what they call the intellectuals, right, that are being killed, the college professors, journalists, novelists, right, literature people that convey messages and share information. They're nearly always the first to have their heads taken, right? That doesn't mean that those taking the heads are good people, right? So we have bad people in power who are misusing your taxpayer, right, misusing your wages, right, sending it off to Uganda for hurleys for deaf kids or whatever it is, right? Or what was the other one in America? So you can be sure, like, there's a lot of this stuff that's going on, because Ireland, the Irish Aid and the USAID work hand in hand in Africa with certain projects and stuff, right? So 15 million for condoms to the Taliban, right? This kind of thing. So that's where your wages are going. Stupid things like this, things that aren't real. They're not real. They don't exist, right? They're just a name on a paper that you can funnel money through, right? So your money's just being stolen from you and spent on things that are detrimental to your own life. So it's nice to cheer this stuff on and see corruption and blatant abuse of power and dishonesty being revealed to the world. But it's also important to recognize that that doesn't automatically make those revealing it saviors or gods, right? It doesn't. It just doesn't, because both parts can be horrible, right? But you also need to allow for the fact that there might actually be good people in the world that have climbed and got into positions of power and influence and authority based on merit, right? Or based on the desire of people to have these people have authority and influence over them. So you can't dismiss that either, right? You have to weigh them up continuously. Every action needs to be weighed up. Every decision needs to be made up, or weighed up, sorry. And the outcome then has to be, you have to wait and see what the outcome of it is, right? But ultimately, the project of building up something new, because it looks like there's an old system is being gutted and ripped apart, right? If you're just totally neutral about it, the way things have been done over the last few years, or however long you want, right, it appears to be being under the process of being dismantled. So there's very little I can do to stop that. There's nothing I can do to stop that, even if I wanted to, which I don't, right? Let it crumble under the weight of its own criminality, right? Let it crumble. But where we do have a part to play is what comes next, right? Absolutely. We have a part to play in all of it, but we need to create something that is better than this. Otherwise, you just end up with the same thing. You just end up with the same thing. So good people now need to get involved and bring forward uh, more beneficial ideas. One would be, let's stop sending let's stop sending $25 billion, 22.5 billion out into other countries, predominantly Africa, for things that never benefit us. Right? Let's stop doing that for a start. Let's have a look at the books in Ireland. Let's have a look at the NGOs in Ireland. Let's just stop giving money to these things, right? Because most of them are all oriented around the same thing, which is equality, black people before white people, climate change. Let's have everything electric. Let's ban your ability to sustain yourself, and there's another one, the refugee stuff, right? So we're pumping billions and billions. We're not pumping it in. We're having money ripped off from us, taken from your wages before you get your hands on it, and pumped into these nonsense things, right? So, does it on the surface of it? Do these things look positive? Absolutely. What would nail that down as legitimate would be if you start seeing people arrested for this stuff. Start seeing people charged for this stuff, because this is treasonous stuff, right? You're robbing people blind here with these nonsense things. You're defrauding people, and you're making yourself very, very, very rich in the meantime, and your friends as well, right? And media journalists and stuff that have been bought off in order to use the weight of their occupation to sway people's opinions on things. You're up there with the worst, right? Or you're down there with the worst, whichever way you want to look at it. But either way, to the deaf kids in Uganda who want to learn about GAA, I'm very sorry. You'll have to find another way, because Irish people should not be paying for this nonsense, right? And if you think that, but sure, I work and I pay my taxes, and I don't mind paying over my taxes, because sure, who else is going to clean up the roads? Well, the roads, they're nearly being made unusable anyway, because the reduction in speed limits is just going to make driving not worthwhile. The amount of crashes that are going to happen over the next little while, because people are going to have to acclimatise to these rapid new changes in speed limits, right? You're going to see the amount of people that are going to get caught speeding now is just going to increase and increase and increase. And they're not really speeding, they're just going at the speed we've gone at for decades. But now it looks like, oh my god, cars are going to be such a disaster on the road. Everyone's just a criminal out there, just gung-ho driving into people, right? This is the argument to be made. So we can continue on. So your money can be continually stolen from you, again, to buy these electric vehicles, which predominantly come from China. And we will continue to build these nonsense windmills that are predominantly sold from China, right? So Ireland are caught at the moment. We're also throwing another 20 million, if you didn't know, into Palestine, right? But Ireland, where we are at the moment, is we have a decision to make as a people. We will either accept some form of union ideologically and financially with America, or with China. It's as simple as that. And I don't know which way that'll go, but I'll tell you now which way I won't allow myself to be brought. And for the rest of everyone else, you can make up your mind, but at least make it up inform yourself before you make a decision. And ask yourself, instead of just justifying everything that happens because that's the way it always was, right? And because you're scared, right? Instead of trying to justify the total abuse of you, your family, and your legacy, right? And the work you do in the world to be paid for it. Instead of just justifying the fact that that's stolen from you because you're scared of standing up against it, look into it and ask yourself seriously, do you want to spend money on hurleys for Ugandan kids, or sign language for Ugandan kids, right? Or money for child waste in Africa? Do you really care about that? Is that money well spent according to you? Would you not be better off with that money in your pocket? Do you not? Could you not find a better way in your life to spend that money instead of on a bunch of people from Africa, right? So it's up to yourself, but at least have an honest conversation with yourself, because I don't know anyone. I really don't, and I don't believe anyone who'd say that they're happy to part with 20, 30, 40, 60% of their income for the sake of the Taliban getting condoms, or for the sake of deaf children in Uganda learning sign language to play hurling with. Right? I don't know, and I wouldn't trust them people, to be honest, because who would do that? And if you're so intent on doing that, I'll pay for your ticket to go over there. Go over and help that way. Let's return to that. Right? Let's not subject whole nations to extortion under the banner of charity when the majority of people have no interest in it. Let's find the individuals in the country that do want to go over and help these African people, however, to whatever degree they're suffering, and let's fund them. I'll spend my taxes on that. I will pay for your ticket over there. One way, right? I'll pay for your ticket over there. Go over and help that way. But outside of that, stop with that. I'm sure I pay my taxes. That's an old, dying justification or a rationalization from the abuse that you've been experiencing for decades, but have never said anything about it. Doesn't work, right? It's dead. So that's it. Onwards we roll, and enjoy the good moments when they come, right? Because just positive things are happening here. And even today, you see Micheál Martin saying, "Well, I won't be giving Donald Trump any sort of lecture when I go over there." Damn right you won't. Right? Of course you won't. You know your place. You'll be going over there with your tail tucked between your legs. I guarantee you not one of them wants to go over there. Not one of them. So we'll see. Hopefully he's dragged out in front of the international media and have to justify himself and justify the state of Ireland as it stands. Right? Have a lovely, lovely day.